Be'ezer Hashem, Parshas Ba'alois Choneitz Yisrael Nosen Chutz Loretz. Reb Chaim Vital writes in the Sefer Shara Kedusha that a person that works out their midas, that's the main goal in a person's life, and it's not really possible to be successful be'emes and Torah mitzvahs if a person doesn't work on their midas. The main area, the place that a person meets their good midas or vice versa, is when a person is in touch with others. Bein adam l'chaveiroi. Bein adam l'chaveiroi includes friends, it includes shalom bayis, all kinds of relationships. It includes kibud aveim, it includes chinuch from the children. A person that has to have social shaykhis, social relationships with people, and the closer a person is to others, the more a person could get triggered not to act the way they're supposed to. You know, people come into shul, the nice guy in the shul, they buy the aliyah, they bring the l'chaim, they smile to everybody, but then they come back home and they have to unwind, and everybody unwinds in a different way. And the emes steiging of a person, if he really wants to serve the Bein Shalom and become a refined person, is for a person to be able to be refined in their bein adam l'chaveiroi, in their relationships with people, al pi Torah. And especially if a person can get to the madrege that a person should be noya covered with the people that he's close with, which a person feels that they could take off all filters and they could just not be in the mood. If a person could steig in that area, that's very, very yisoidisdig, and it's going to have a shpor on the hatzloch of the person, the ruchnius, and all over the place. The problem is that it's very, very hard to work on bein adam l'chaveiroi for many reasons. And when we learn Chavis Alvavis, you're trying to believe and trust the Bein Shalom and hope that the Eibush is going to help you to succeed in tough areas in Avodas Hashem. So the more a person realizes the hardships, the more a person could, besides being aware, it brings awareness, it also helps a person understand why they need such bitachon to the Bein Shalom, and at the same time believe that the Eibush get helfen. That's what bitachon is. Bitachon is, on the one hand, to chap that it's impossible. So that's how you take down the koich avotzim yodi. How complicated it is, and it's taka. And the other hand, not to give up. To be mechasek yourself from the right place and saying, but I'm going to try. I'm going to get up and try again. And I'm going to be a moed al emes type of person. It means I'm not going to try to shove it under the rug or being in this blame game. No. I felt I'm going to try again. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have acted that way. It's a tough avodah, but the results is very, very powerful. Because if a person in that area tries to do progress, even if a person doesn't become a Muslim, but they really do, they're mitzliach to go weiter and to have hatzlochas, then the Shechina could be showed much, much easier. And then a lot of areas in Avodas Hashem automatically start working out better. So now let's discuss, why is it so complicated? Why is it so much harder than making a Kabbalah to learn every day a few minutes and whatever safer it is? And what we could try to do about it. And then to try to have the proper bitachon in the Bein Shalom in this specific area. The first nakuda is because when a person is working on every different area that you're taking a Kabbalah upon yourself, you're working on behavior. That means it's external in a certain way. A person is going to do ABC. Every day I'm going to kiss the mezuzah, I'm going to daven. But when a person is trying to be toididig in relationships, it touches right away the anova and gaiva. It touches the ego of a person right away, all the way in. The real person, what a person thinks about themselves, and what a person thinks how others should treat him, the expectations of a person, and it touches the image. And this goes back, not only nature, it goes to nurture. A lot of times a person is being megiv, is reacting really to something that happened 10 years ago, trying to prove a point in the subconscious. It gets very deep. So now, when a person is trying to work on their Bein Adam L'Chaveiro, it's Bein Adam L'Chaveiro is like a proper word. It's a fancy word, but really a person is struggling with their ego. That's what it is. And when they're struggling with their ego, first of all, it's hard to work on the ego, and zweitens, it's also deep. Why is it so important for you to take off the blame? What's going to happen if you're going to say, yep, I made a mistake, I'm at fault, and I feel terrible about it? Why is it so hard to say it? It's deep, it goes back, because you feel like everything's falling apart if you're going to say it. It's a deep chelik of the person. Aleph, because it's rooted in his ritzoyinus, it's hard to work on it. And zweitens, because sometimes you have to figure out the behind the scenes why a person is having such a tough time. And this is not only about apologizing. It's about, when it comes to verginnen, that's a hard one. When you see a person has the opposite of jealousy, you should be excited that someone has Baruch Hashem. I'm really happy for you. Appreciate and enjoy that the other person is being matzliach from the bottom of your heart. There's a lot of areas in Bein Adam L'Chaveiro where it touches the person because it reminds the person of their hardships. So now it hurts them that somebody else is being so matzliach and so on. So the number one why it's so hard for a person is because they're trying to work on a deeper part of themselves. The Chavis always says that a person is supposed to know that when it comes to Avodas Hashem, you're supposed to try, and then you're supposed to rely on the Rebbeinu Shalom that the Eibush is going to help you succeed. So a person is trying to say the right thing. A person is trying to be mizgaba and behave proper, but then they see that it's so hard and so many times they fell through. And how are they ever going to really become the type of person that they chap, that Toidedik, it's supposed to look like that, but they're so far? Okay, so the first step is we're humble and we're honest, and we say, I'm as far, I'm going to daven, I'm going to try. I know it's going to hurt sometimes, because when a person raises their awareness about how horrible it is to behave like that, or even sometimes to think like that, it's not good. Even the machshava, it hurts them. They're in pain that they are only where they are. They would want to not be in that place. That's a step in the right direction, a very strong step in the right direction, because they're not enjoying it. So it could bring them to daven, just not to give up. That's the Bitachon again. The awareness brings you to the anova, and then you're supposed to bring to yourself, I'm going to try again, and the Eibush is going to take my tefillah, the Eibush is going to take my Kabbalah, and going to see what's going on inside me that I really want so badly, and the Eibush is going to help me, even though I don't see. It's already for the longest time, and I'm struggling mighty with such horrible midas. It could really shake up a person, because when a person chaps how horrible it is, it's to live such a type of life or to think that way. It hurts be'emes. Oh, but that's Bitachon, not to get followed. Now, another reason why it's so hard is because you can't see the progress. It's not that a person can have a chart and see, okay, I've been doing this for 413 days so far. It doesn't work like that. It's inner work. And if you look back, usually a few months ago or something like that, you could see, wow, there's a difference. But it's not tangible. So it makes it harder for a person to be chogeg, you had a success, to be excited about it, and to celebrate your successes. And you have to chop it, you have to be aware, and you have to see the progress. It's harder to draw the picture and to see, wow, you're really doing better. A lot of times a person's embarrassed and they have to do it on their own. Something else, like if they learn a daf every day, it's not only you could see, wow, okay, I did today's daf. It's also that other people could see it. You can make a big siyum. People don't like to make a siyum and say, hey, I got from here to here with my gaiva, so I'm making a fleische gesuda. Met shemaich of simchas. They don't like to do that. Hagam, there's a person that used to drive from New York to Montreal. He had the bus. I think it was Montreal Trails or when they had that route. And he made a big kiddush. He said that he realized that by being a bus driver, it could be problematic in Shmir Sinai. When we're coming up, paying and Zachen, he saw it's not good for him. So he bought himself a clicker. That every time he's matzliach, not to look where he's not supposed to, he gave a click. It was on his own. He made a big kiddush and said, what's the kiddush? He said, I just got 2,000 clicks. He made a kiddush Shabbos in the morning. And that's amazing, because it's a tool. If we could only have a clicker when we didn't say something that we wanted to say, it helps. It really helps, because it gives a person a chizik. But upon him, the fact that it's not so easy to see and touch the progress, it should be like a graph, that makes it harder to continue on, because the person forgets. They have to work on it, but then they get busy, and they remind themselves like 3 years later. They don't have what's going on. It's not something that a person's consistent. They get up in the morning, today again. Hagam, then when we daven, we mispal every day. And it was many things like Nitzar L'Shonim Meiro and Nashikov L'Akol Tiyeh and Same Belibi Emunach Nov. There was a lot of tefillas that a person be'emes knows 3 times a day. We have to daven, we have to invest. But that's a second nakuda. You don't see the progress. A third nakuda, why it's so hard, is because a different kabbalah that a person makes, once they did their kabbalah, they could, if it's a mental note or physically, they can make a check. Baruch Hashem. Today I did it. It could be davening with minyan, it could be giving tzedakah, it could be learning a certain amount. Whoa! Okay, I did it today. When we're trying to work on our benadum l'chaveiroi, it just hits us surprisingly, randomly, and it doesn't help that in the morning I was such a nice guy. It's so challenging and frustrating. Gefährlich frustrating. A person got up in a good mood, decided he's being a good person today. Whoever meets him, geschmack, is going to go out of the way. But then, in the end of the day, it's the end of the day. That's it. And then, sometimes you could pay a price, and a month later you're still busy cleaning up that mess. After the person already is working on themselves. Because it doesn't ask reshus before the matzav comes, and it gets you in a matzav. A person doesn't have the same mood the whole time. Mamash gets caught off guard, and a person keilu has to be in a matzav that even when they're not in a good mood, they should have that savlonis, that clarity, that koichas hanefesh. It's like trying to learn after being up a whole night. You could sit by the Gemara, but it's more your nose learning by Chavrusa. if you look about it in nefesh, it's very, 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 very hard, very challenging. Now, there's another nakuda in this itself, but it's a hisofa, that not only you're in a bad mood, it catches you off guard because you're going on somebody else's roller coaster. So no, it's very stark nakuda. You could try to be very strong, but somebody else loses on you in every type of way. It could be screaming, it could be of keeping quiet, it could be someone has tightness on you, or someone's trying to be very helpful, which could be worse than everything mentioned above. You don't have shlita on it because you're hefke when it comes to Benam Lachavere. It's so scary. You don't know. It's unexpected because ich bin in jenem Zeshos. Always.
Driving is a 5-hour course, defense drive, when you're not doing something the person
defense drive. I mean, you have to react to something that happened. And that person, it wasn't a good mood. And you're always exposed. You're not living on an island. So you're exposed. You don't know who's the next person that now very hurt. Gefährlich. And so that it makes it be'emes hard. You can't run a Seder HaYoim. It's not going to help you. And last but not least, is that the strongest drive that a person has is the Ratzon. A person's Ritzoinus. Whatever the Ritzoinus are, which many times has to do with the Sviva or what they're right now in a shtickl matziv, they want something so badly. When a person has a very strong desire, a will, that he wants something very badly, it's very, very powerful and they're very deep. And now, when Ben Adam L'Chaver clashes with that, it's very hard for a person to just be very cool, calm, and collective, say, okay, no problem, it's fine. That's when someone doesn't really care. It's something that I don't care, you want it, you need it, take it, it's a good. But when it comes to core issues in life, and someone is out there to tell you, I'm going to fight you. If they say it or they don't say it or they do it, but they're interfering, they're stirring you from your deepest ritzoinus. It's very hard. It's so hard. Because if a person could get up and be strong and smile, but for 5 minutes. Tomorrow, that Nisayon comes again, BSSAs. And that's true in Rotzen sometimes is when a person is trying to earn money. It could be a person that's trying to be mechanach their children, and that's now their drive it could be a shidduch that a person is in the middle and someone just nixed it stam. It could be so many matzovim where right now the Rotzen was very strong and they feel they were caught off guard because it was a trigger for them. Somebody else's behavior, because it went against something that's so deep, something that hurts me in such a deep way.
That makes it even more hard than what you said by appearances. These cause callbacks on music.
And many, many relationships are growing on earth. It's already misubach. It's complicated already for doidas. It's parents and siblings that it didn't start today. This baggage of emotion, 100 kilo of emotions this way, the other way. So this is a partial regime, a chelik ma'akol, from the hardships that is on the Chavera. And we have to face it, because the person has to work on it. And not only work on it for right now to try to just for today to figure it out. It's like it's an avoida, and a person needs a lot of nefesh for it, a lot of nefesh. That's why it's one of the reasons to make sure you try to get enough sleep. Very important for this topic. The fuse has a very different klolim when a person doesn't sleep enough, and we need to strengthen our bitachon. With the same klolam the Chavez always gives. We have to do what we need to do. And it means doing what you need to do is, first of all, learning about it. Second of all, learning from mistakes. That's a stadlus. Also, to try to understand people. Like, something's going on. What's mistama the reason why that person is in such need of my attention or whatever? It's part of the stadlus. Because a person can't keep Hilchas Shabbos if they don't know Hilchas Shabbos. It's just impossible. And to try to do the minimum stadlus. I'm not saying to be a novi, but a stadlus. What's the basics? The basics is to try to lefi the mind that Abisha gave me, lefi the experience that I have. What's can sein? I'm trying to understand Yenim's point of view, and it helps a ton. Once we try to do the stadlus and that we need to do, then we have to daven and get upbeat and not be so zerbrochen from all the times that we failed. So let's dive in a bit deeper. The most common mahalach that people take for this topic is a coping mechanism which is built on technical solutions for these situations. That's the most common. So you'll have people that really got messed up in life. But most people try not to be messed up. They want to figure it out. But we try to figure it out usually technically. There are thousands of shalom bayis in their work technically. That means this person's Kabbalah Rosh Hashanah was, it goes back. It's not this Rosh Hashanah. It's already years. I don't argue. I don't argue. If she said this, he said this, I don't argue. But that sentence, if you listen to the depth of that sentence, my coping mechanism is, you finish saying your tyness, you bought say that. There's no real understanding, and the main reason is because both parties gave up. It was just too painful. When we tried to understand each other, it just got more messy. So this is the way he thinks, and this is the way she thinks. And it is what it is. And let's push it. And it's very good. But this coping mechanism is Chochmas Chaim in a certain sense. That means you figured out how not to get really into a mess. But it's a little bit like when the officer stops you, you were speeding. The main thing is to finish this irua clean. Damage control. So, yeah, I know I should have wore a seatbelt. I made a mistake. I'm wrong. You're like hoping, okay, you could go, okay. You say, I made it. You just to get out of this mess. But then you're not working on your midas. You're working on chokhmah. It means you're learning coping mechanisms, how to make sure to finish the story of Vashnalah. So like this. Again, there's a matzav that's worse, that's for sure. And a lot of people are there. They argue, and I'm just saying that when we do try to work on it, and so a person with das, I don't want to fight. I just got koich for this. We bring it up to the level of being matzliach technical. Now, in this level of being matzliach technical, there's also two dargas. One darga is that the person says, "This is my goyrel, and I don't know. There's days that I can handle it, and it takes me 15 minutes to get over it, and there's days that it takes me a full day to get over it. But it is what it is, and they go weiter." There's a matzah that's one darga less, that the person really, really is so, or could be upset, or could be laughing at the other party, and it's a mamash game. When the person is not arguing, inside what they're telling themselves to cool this fire is the other party is so sick in the head. Wow. But say that it's a bunch of lying and a bunch of there's a bunch of like that's there's a sibuch, but they're still learning how to keep quiet and figure out. But they really in their mind they hold that people around them, this person is a meshugana, this person is a rosha, this person is a different type of meshugana. That's what they hold. So that's more problematic because then your mamash the guy inside. Right. That darga, even though you're officially getting out of the mess, but inside the midas are thriving. They're even becoming stronger. You're doing the whole thing. You're just doing it smarter in your eyes. The second darga that we mentioned earlier, he's not doing that. He has rachmanis. He doesn't even have koich to fire in it. He doesn't have koich to say that person not meshugah. Can koich pashet. So that technically making sure not to get messed up. The emes is that the Eibusha wants us to get to a further madrega. So again, wherever a person is, they have to try to get to the next madrega. We already mentioned 3 madregas. Messed up b'dibur, messed up in the heart, and the technical boundaries that a person has, just not to get involved. But the Rebbeinu wants us to must be more matzliach. And when we talk about having bitachon menon l'chaveroi, the concept is that a person knows that Avodas Hashem is deep, and Avodas Hashem always has the next step to get to. And even when a person is not all the way there, they learn about the madrega, how it's supposed to look. They have a tshuka halavai. They could have some success for a beautiful story that they acted so beautiful. You're supposed to be involved in the madregas, even though I still have a long way to go. The Eibusha really wants us to get to a place that a person should be able to connect to others, even if others are not being so nice to him and all kinds of situations. Bemis, they really connected. They don't have a problem. They like the other person with all the shortcomings. They got some nice. They said, "Listen, I have my baggage." Baruch Hashem, the machshiv and they chaz the values that the other person has, and they say, "I was nischanach this way, the other person was nischanach the other way." That's fine. I don't really care who's right. Life is so beautiful. Life is just beautiful. So now, even when it limits you, even when it gets in the way, take the example of a person that finds out that they're allergic to a lot of different foods that they were very used to, or they develop Crohn's or whatever it is, and it's a new matzav. And then they get the whole list that they can't eat. Can't eat this, he can't eat this, he can't. So in the beginning, it could follow you like a ton of bricks. What's going to be now? Same as with diabetes and so weiter. But then, if a person learns a new way of life, which is limited, 100%, you can do whatever you want, but then they have their foods that they eat. What happens is that after they get used to it, they could get ad k'dei kach to a matzav that they don't feel b'chal they're missing anything. So all's good. Ad k'dei kach. There's many examples. One of them is many people mishach and shav pesach. They don't eat. They're very limited types of foods. Mamish, potatoes, eggs. Some people don't eat chicken, false fish. They don't eat fish. They eat it. There's a whole list of things. But when you get used to it, and they're limited in economy, but their life and their enjoyment of life could be 100, sometimes more than the person that's not limited. If a person has the right train of thought, definitely could be more. Zicha. They don't eat the sechsha. They don't eat before they go to sleep. They don't eat before davening. They have a whole list. And bottom line is, they're in a better mood. But it takes time. It's hard. to this change is hard. But chap, that's not that it was nigzar, it was a gzeira min hashamayim that you should suffer. Suffer? No, not suffer. You have a gzeira that you're going to have to work hard on yourself to get to a place of a new system, of a new mahalach. Not suffer. On the way, it's the hardships. The zelbazach with relationships. Sometimes a person feels, if I want to keep this relationship going, if I want to chaf the matzah, you know how limited I am? If you would just know, I can't do this and I can't do that. That's crazy. Middle of the night, it's mishigas and with shtusam, with inyanim, it's gefährlich. But a person has to understand that it's a state of mind. And it goes back to Munah Bitachon. Munah Bitachon, okay. So that's my new understanding in life, a new situation. Sometimes it's like old new. I just chap the matzah, but instead of deciding that the matzah is so gefährlich, and every person you meet, you're saying, if you would just know, you would give me kritlach, if you would know what I go through. The person that changes the state of mind says, no, I'm limited. It's true. It's also hard for me to be limited, but it's not a reason to take away my simchas hachaim and have a new system. Many people that the Eibishter gave them this nisayon, very, very hard nisayon, of being in jail. The Eibishter overeaten themselves in a goyish jail for years. The famous one for Shlomo Bashkan, but I once spoke to one of those people, and he told me that every year of Shabbos, he cleans his room. He can't change clothing, and he can't have Shabbos the food, and he can't have a shul. And there's really no difference. And in the room there's also goyim, in the same room. But he cleans the walls on Friday. And he cleans up everything, the floor. And he takes toilet paper and makes a tishtach, a tablecloth on the table. And also he has the amoitzi, whatever, what he can get at night, that becomes his chaladekel every week. And he sings nagunim. Now, is it comfortable? Not. But is it possible for a person to have simchas hachaim? Yeah. Now, that's extreme case. It's not simple. But when we're talking about relationships, again, you're limited, okay, but you now have bechira, the chap, that you, with your state of mind of amunah and bitachon, you could get to a place that you could enjoy life be'emes, and amunah is the first part, and that is, the Eibishter didn't mean to make me suffer. The Eibishter was there to give me a challenge. So the Rebbeinu gave it to me, and the Eibishter said, I never said you should suffer, never. I meant to give you a challenge. And if you're going to go out with Torah, you could enjoy, and that means more than another person. That's the Emunah part. The Bitachon is that it looks to me very, very far-fetched. I should be able to be Matzliach. Bein is such a madrege. I don't know if Hashem knows me. I'm not there. And then the person says, but I have Bitachon. What's the first step? What's the first step? He asks his Rav, give me the first step. I could do the first step. First step means where I am. And you know what I'm going to do afterwards? I'm going to dream about how it's supposed to look. I'm going to try to imagine. And I'm going to say, wow, I'm so far. Shchine, wie weit bist du? I'm here, the Gulas is groß. Just, if they watch, I not to say the person's name when you say the Gulas is groß. It's far, but you know something? If the Eibishter is not going to help me, I won't be able to. But if the Eibishter does help me, it's really possible. Wow, it would be beautiful. Let me do the first step. A person is head on going into this challenge.
That's what we mentioned earlier, that to go for himself, not to argue. It's perfectly good. It's just,
Yes. The marshal that we mentioned earlier, but says, I don't argue. If you have the right state of mind, it's amazing. If you're going to have the right state of mind, just Switch that little inside. Instead of saying that you want to stay at this stage, say, listen, let me start with not arguing. My tshuka is to figure this out. Now, where do people get stuck? Because they get beyush, 100%. They're like, this is not going to work. You don't know her. I promise you, this is not going to. You know how many people tried? You know how many, and bichlal and money that I spent on this. And people are also petrified to open up the can of worms again. Don't. It's good. We're not arguing. It could get worse. Believe me. It's very, very deep yish. But 1 second, if we have yish, it means that's the filled bitachon. It's very scary because a person doesn't want to get messed up. And a person doesn't want to open up areas that it's so painful and so deep. So it's much easier to keep a distance from the whole matziv. So in the Chanami, you have to do it slow. But the Bitachon chelik, they wish to get helfen. Many people feel like that their years, they give a new name for their years. That's a nice name, years. Give up. So they name it. What's their name? Bitachon. That's the name they give for their years. So it's good. So, but really, the Rebbe wants us to get to a place. Which place? Let's try to vision. Let's see a shtickle. How does it look? So there's how it looks from the outside. But let's open up how it looks from the inside. From the inside, a person with chalash be'etzem to reach a place of anova, that he doesn't get intimidated and so triggered when someone blames him. Halavai. Imagine, it's amazing. Why? Because I have schwerigkeit, and he takes chiyas from the Bein Shalom, and he be'emes feels it's like emes. I made a mistake. It's 100%. I shouldn't have said that. They're not in such a turmoil. They wish they're not there yet, but they wish that inside they're going to be calmer when someone says something. Aleph. Beis. The fact of enjoying a different person and appreciating a different person and being machshav that Eid and looking at that person as an neshama and seeing that the person made a mistake. Granted, the mistake happened, the person did it to me. It's a mistake. That person was in a shvacha minut. If we could get that it should become part of our mahalach machshava, then a person could try to have rachmanis on somebody else and be annoyed to somebody else, and to really feel that person's other person's tsar. They could try to inch closer to that place, not from a technical perspective. It doesn't mean that it's not a journey of life. Of course, it's long and it's deep, but let's learn. Let's that connect emotionally to the way it's supposed to look, and slowly it does the job. It helps the person. Slowly, the information starts sinking in, and the emotions, the richtige, start sinking in a little bit more. And sometimes you can have that something that used to trigger me, this doesn't trigger me anymore. Other things still do, but it's progress. It's amazing progress. The most beautiful Ben Adam progress comes from that the core of the person is healed or healing. The person be'emes has a different perspective on people, has a different perspective on the close people, which they feel they could have a different perspective. What happens then is, let's go back to the list of hardships. A person worked on their Anova V'Gaya. They're going to see progress in the long term. But because Zach are not going to trigger you so badly, so even if you're tired at night, it's not going to be so hard. You're not going to be so exposed. When a person is holding a crystal jar with two hands and walking in the street, it's very scary, because if someone runs by, anything could hurt it. But if a person, their record is dirty anyways, it's the old hat, what could happen? That it's going to rain? Baruch Hashem. They're not so exposed. So the Gemara is a kloil mi odem rach kekona. The Gemara Masechtas Tainis. If a person is a soft person, and a person has that perspective to life and about themselves, so it's not so scary if a wind comes and blows, because what happens is, it doesn't break, it bends, and then it bends right back like a spring. So that's what a person is trying to get to. So when a person is imagining it and learning about it and saying Tehillim, then even if they make one Kabbalah, but they're trying to do what they need to do, and the rest they believing that the Gemar only the Eibusher can make that it should happen, but they have that chukka. They have that chukka, they have that moida la'emes, they have that awareness that the Bein helps. The Eibusher will that a person should do progress, and a person that's really out there to try to get there is avada the Eibusher help and have siyata d'shmaya.